Welcome back to Hardball. Governor Rick Perry was campaigning in New Hampshire today, talking about jobs, but it was controversial comments he made earlier in the week about Ben Bernanke, the head of the Fed, that continued to dog him there. And not just with Democrats. Perry said the Fed chairman could be treasonous if he decided to print more money before the election. Well, today, the governor joked about the reaction. Let's listen.
I got in trouble about talking about the Federal Reserve yesterday. I got lectured about that yesterday.
Wow, well, he made light of it, but many Republican critics are taking his remarks quite seriously, especially former George W. Bush advisor. Here's Karl Rove going after the governor on Fox yesterday. Let's listen.
You don't accuse the chairman of the Federal Reserve of being a traitor to his country, of being guilty of treason, and suggesting that we treat him pretty ugly in Texas. That's not, again, a presidential statement.
Wow. Other Bush aides, including Deputy Press Secretary Tony Fratto and former speechwriter and Deputy Assistant Frank Winter, also criticized Perry's remarks. Why are the Bush folks lining up and talking up against their fellow Texan? Is it personal, or does it say something about the Republican Party's fear, and it could be quite legitimate, as we all know, of going too far right? We're joined right now by Politico's Julie Mason. Thank you, Julie. And GOP strategist Mark Markovic, thank you. He served as press secretary, Mark did, to Texas Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison, of course, ran against Perry unsuccessfully for governor last year. He did not work on that campaign. However, Mark, thank you. I want to start with Julie and this whole thing about, what do you make of this? Is this a personal war, sort of an intramural tete-a-tete or whatever, a kerfuffle between the Bushies that they don't like Perry, or are they really worried? Are Rove and those people worried that Perry may just sink them in a year they think they can win?
Well, they really don't like Perry, and it goes all the way back to Texas in '98 and the governor's campaign then. Rove actually convinced Perry to switch parties and join the Republicans way back in the day, but now they don't like him. The Bushies never really liked Perry. They consider him a bit of a rube, a bit of a country cousin. And Perry, in his part, considers Bush to be sort of, more of the country club Republican, not really heir to the true Republican Party, which Perry perceives to be more conservative. Maybe they're both right, but it does sort of point up this whole fight for the heart and soul of the Republican Party. Which side is going to win? Is it going to be more the Perry partisan, the hard partisan, Christian right, or is it going to be more the Bush side, on a Greenwich, Connecticut?
Yeah, what is it? What is this Saudi Buster part to Rick Perry? We're trying to figure him out. I compared him to Bull Connor with a smile the other day. Maybe that was too far, but I'm still learning about this guy. He didn't like the basis of the Civil Rights Act of '64. He didn't like the public accommodations being based on the Interstate Commerce Clause. He says we shouldn't have the Voting Rights anymore Act. He says he talks about secession. He talks about states' rights. He's got all the idiom, Matt, of the guys who hated civil rights. So I am suspicious. Maybe I should take back the Bull Connor, but not yet, because there's something about the guy that keeps playing to that Saudi Buster attitude that doesn't like civil rights. I know the words.
Well, Chris, I don't really think. Yes, sir. I don't really think that's fair. I'll be honest with you. I mean, look, this election is going to be about the economy. It's going to be a macro election.
What's not fair? Tell me what's not fair.
Well, I just think to harp on those specific things misses the 98% of what Governor Perry's done as governor of Texas.
Okay, so you think it's wrong to say You're saying it's wrong to say he's an enemy of the Voting Rights Act because he wants to get rid of it. He doesn't like the Civil Rights Act because he doesn't like its constitutional foundation. He doesn't really believe in states' rights. He really didn't believe in secession. So I'm wrong to listen to his words, you're saying.
Chris, what I'm saying is that you're getting off on some bunny trails here that aren't necessarily what this election is going to be about.
Well, not what he wants it to be about.
Well, what his record is, Chris, look, it's about job creation. You know, Texas has created more jobs since the recovery began than the other 49 states combined. That's a very compelling argument to make next fall against President Obama when you look at where he is on the economy. You rightly noted the Gallup numbers, 26% approval on the economy. Right. So, look, there are definitely some things out there that people are going to latch onto. Anyone who's been governor of the second largest state for 10 years is going to have some things that you could go after. But fundamentally, this election is about the economy. It's about
that's a political argument. I'm trying to figure out who this guy is. Why does he? Sure. Let me go back to Julie. Why does he use these terms like, I don't like the Voting Rights Act, I want to get rid of it, it's out of date. I don't like the constitutional basis for the Civil Rights Act. I'm talking up secessionism. I'm a states' rights guy. Why does he talk like that? I just want to know why he uses those words over and over.
He believes in that, Chris, and you raised some really interesting points, because here's the thing. Rick Perry, unlike Mitt Romney and some of these other candidates, hasn't been vetted nationally. So these are questions he's going to have to answer if he's going to be taken seriously as a candidate. He's only been in Texas. He hasn't been win on the national stage. And so now we're going to hear what he thinks about these things. We're going to see it. We're going to see him respond to it. And it's going to be a fascinating process because he hasn't been through that ringer of the national vetting to run for president.
I mean, all you got to do is look at Google, Matt, and I'll get back to you. You're saying he wants to focus on the things he didn't focus on before, or he didn't talk about before.
No, Chris, what I'd say is, look, he spends most of his time worried about job creation as governor of the state of Texas. He really does. He had a very successful session this last session, passed pro-life legislation, passed loser pays tort reform, closed, I think, one of the largest budget deficits without raising taxes in state history. And meanwhile, as I said before, Texas's economic record is very strong. Look, you ask any other governor, they would trade places with where Texas is in a heartbeat, because Texas is creating jobs, because our economy is growing, because we have no state income tax. Texas is an extremely interesting place to be right now.
Matt, I think there's some question whether Rick Perry can realistically take credit for all of that. I mean, it certainly wasn't his policies that.
Yeah. Well, would he take blame if the unemployment rate was high? Of course he would. So,
yeah, but that's not the standard, Matt. That's not the test. His policies didn't lead to that great job development in Texas, but he's going to try to run on that. But questions are going to be raised, and it's going to be proven whether or not he can really take credit for that.
Let's take a look at President Obama here answering a question today on CNN. Actually, it was yesterday about Rick Perry. He was asked if the governor was being disrespectful. That was the word to the commander-in-chief for suggesting that men and women in the military would prefer a president who also served in the armed forces before serving as president. Here's what the president said.
You know, Mr. Perry just got in the presidential race, and I think that everybody who runs for president, it probably takes them a little bit of time before they start realizing that this isn't like running for governor or running for senator or running for Congress. And you've got to be a little more careful about what you say. But I'll cut him some slack. He's only been at it for a few days now.
Well, for that nice guy comment, here comes the response. Governor Perry took a swipe at the president today. Let's listen.
Yesterday, President said I needed to watch what I say. I just want to respond back, if I may. Mr. President, actions speak louder than words. My actions as governor are helping create jobs in this country. The president's actions are killing jobs in this country. It's time to get America working again.
What do you think he meant, Matt, when he said the other day, the governor, that he wanted to have the military proud of who their commander-in-chief was? Why did that mean exactly?
Well, I would say this. Governor Perry is the only candidate in the race who has military experience. He's a veteran.
Yeah, but what do you mean not proud? Are they not proud of serving under the commander-in-chief they have now? What's the lack of pride there? I didn't know there was a lack of pride in serving under President Obama. What's he talking about?
Look, I think that President Obama has taken on some of the national security policies of the President Bush administration. It's very different rhetoric from when he ran for office, talking about closing Gitmo, pulling out. He stayed in Iraq. He surged into Afghanistan. Those policies were changes.
He caught bin Laden.
Look, and yes, the Navy SEALs caught bin Laden. That's right, under President Obama's
So why they're not proud
leadership.
of their commander?
I think they're proud we caught bin Laden. Again, Chris, this election is not going to be on national security and foreign policy.
Why do you keep saying it's not about what the candidate keeps saying it's about? Why did he say he wants to be a commander-in-chief that the serving men and women in the military would be proud of? That is a direct personal shot at the nature of this president, who he is as a person. It doesn't even have to do with his lack of a military record. It has to do with the lack of something he's getting at. Is this guy a birther? What is he? What is Rick Perry getting at here?
It's such throwback politics, isn't it, Chris? I mean, it seems like he's raising an issue that doesn't even exist.
Matt, explain.
I'm being put on the spot to look into someone else's mind and explain what they were thinking. That's an interesting exercise. You know, I would just say that look, as I said before, I know you want to take things he said, one sentence here and there, and use it against him. I think ultimately, though, Chris, he's going to be the nominee. I understand
what he's talking about. Well, and I know what a dog whistle sounds like.
Well, let's talk about the nomination process, because this is important. I think that our primary electorate wants three things. They want a conservative, they want an executive, and they want someone that will go at President Obama directly on his leadership. Bachmann has one of those. She's a conservative. Romney has one of those as an executive. Perry has all three of those characteristics, and so I think that's why you're seeing him number one in the Rasmussen poll nationally. He's number two in New Hampshire now. He's going to be very strong in Iowa. So, look, he's definitely on the rise right now, and I think if you're Mitt Romney, you have to be worried. If you're Michelle Bachmann, you have to be worried. And if you're President Obama, you have to be worried right now about Rick Perry.
Okay, well, apparently you agree with him. Anyway, Julie, last thought. Has this guy got problems with what he stands for? Is he going to just retreat from everything he said before?
No, I think he's going to stand by everything he said. You know, one of the really interesting things about Rick Perry, he's so charismatic. He's he's such a fascinating character to watch. He really does. He's great at retail politics, and these things he said in the past, they could come back to haunt him, but I don't see him retreating from any of it. He's going to own it.
Okay. Does he have any black support?
No, I don't think so. Not much.
Okay. Thank you, Matt Matthew. Thanks for joining us, and thank you, Joey Mason.